Okay. We are going to start a little code along on how to structure your JSX in React. This isn't like a super technical code along. It's mostly just a strategy to keep things clean for you in your JSX while you're building it out, so that you don't have a hard time making new components and things like that and completely having to restructure your stuff when you do it. So I'm going to make a to-do list. We're just pretty much going to do showing the list of to-dos and adding one to the list. And that's pretty much as far as we're going to go. And show how if you structure your JSX in a certain way, it will make it easier for you to make new components as you go along, instead of having to plan out ahead of time what you want. I have, let me get the site up where you can see it. 1 second. Go. All right, so that's our site. We will start soon. All right, so like you saw, we just have a list in here. So we are going to work with that currently. So we're going to start with pretty simple. We need a list of to-dos. So we're going to go ahead and set up a list that we can pull from. Use state. And these aren't things you necessarily need to know about if you've never seen them before. So this will just give us some to-dos to use in our application. I'm just going to go ahead and add a random one. Go with that. All right, and then just to show that we can show them, we'll go ahead and do this. Some of you guys are saying you need the font size to be larger. Do that. Super big. All right, so continuing on. So that should, if I just save, that should show us a new to-do. So I'm just showing the first one there. So let's go back. Obviously, we can't just keep doing that. So let's go ahead and we're gonna find a way to list all of them. So if I add another one. Now, obviously, we need to list them all, so we're going to do that. For each to do, we are just going to show that to do. It's pretty straightforward. I forgot a parentheses. So here we should be able to see it again. It does not look pretty. They're just kind of smushed together. So yeah, we want that to look a little better later. But for now, I'm okay with this, and we're gonna do just setting a new one. So let's start that. We're gonna need a button that we'll click to go set a new one. So if we go look now, we should see our button there. Looks horrible, but we'll make it better in a minute. Right, so we've got our to-dos sitting there. We've got a button that currently does nothing. And now we'll go back and make it do something. So call it start new. So this is a new function we're going to do. Still on Angular for a second. All right. So now what do we want this to do? We just want it to add our new to do, or we want it to change to some state where we can see a new to do. So I'm gonna add a new thing called creating, which will be a Boolean to know whether we are creating a new to do currently or not. It's going to start as false. Right, currently not using those. So when we decide to start a new one, we just want to set creating to true. So start with that. That's not really going to do much right now, but we will add something here. We will add a bit to if we are creating, then we want to show an input tag. Otherwise, we'll show our list of to-dos. Either way, I'm going to leave this button there for now. But yeah, so let's give that a shot and see what that does. So right now we have our list. Yep, and now we have an input tag. It doesn't toggle it back, so we obviously need to do some more work to make it actually do the thing. So we know that when I type into the list, I want to keep track of what the person's typing in so that when they go ahead and create the to-do button, then we'll actually be able to create a new to-do. But I already have a problem here where this button, it looks really nice here. Like I can click it and create a new to-do, but we know we already have that set up to only start a new one, to toggle this. So we're going to need something different for a different button. So I already know I'm going to need some other stuff right here around this input. So really what I want is something more like this. And I want to take this button move it in here with this other bit of to-dos here. So I want the button just to go with the list of to-dos. You can see how this is already getting kind of messy. So that's already getting rough, and then we have to do the same thing here. Just encapsulate this in a div. And then we'll have to do the same thing, giving it its own button. And this button will have something called like create to do. So yeah, already this is getting really rough, right? This looks not great at all. I may even have, yeah, I've got some kind of weird syntax error. That's because I didn't end my JavaScript interpolation right here. Yeah, it's looking rough. Yeah, there's nothing called create to do yet. Let's go and make that. Just to make that stop complaining. Yeah, so now, that didn't work out. Here we go. We'll have to encapsulate this also, and some interpolation tags. Now we're good here. Comes back. We called this button the same thing. Let's fix that real quick. We'll call this create to do. And that, my friends, is why you do not copy and paste. All right, there we go. And now in theory, I could click this and it would actually create the to-do after I type it in. We haven't put that functionality yet. But already, this is looking not fantastic. It's getting really big, and this is just to do one little thing. And we really don't want all this logic in here. So this is where I would try to pull this logic out to the spot. So we're going to make ourselves a little function. Before this version of React, there was, when you would make a React class, there would be a render function. I'm going to go ahead and kind of create my own little render function. It's going to be like render main content, probably not the best name, but it'll work. Okay. So let's go ahead and use that. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to return this exact thing we have right here. Fix my indentation a little bit. Yeah, noise loads. Okay, we don't need these anymore, so it's a little cleaned up. Still not great, right? Because we still kind of got the same thing, but at least now I can do this. I can call that function, and now it's going to return me the JSX I want. This function still looks kind of like garbage, but my main return down here is looking much cleaner. So we can follow that same logic for these. So now I'm going to want something like render new form. So we're going to grab that, place it in. That to go back a little further. Alright. And same thing here, we'll just call form. And we can just keep this going. Under to-do list. So I left a bit of div behind. All right. Yeah, so the only thing we need now is go ahead and tell it to go ahead and return these things. So here. Here, just go ahead and alright. So now with all that done, so now we have a couple very small pieces. We have a piece here that renders our to-do list and then has our button to start a new one. We have a piece here that renders our input tag and has a button to create one. And they're all kind of isolated their own little bit. If I have a problem with any of these, I can just go to that one render function. And then we have this one here, it's just responsible for, and we can make this a little cleaner, but it's just responsible for deciding which thing to render. There we go. All right, let's check that out. And we have something somewhere. Oh, right here. Forgot to return. And there we go. So that needs to do, and we're back here. Again, don't have it set up to actually create one yet, but we're here. So you see how these are already split out really nicely into like little bits, and that's what components are all about, which means as these get bigger, it can become really, really easy. It can become really easy to get a new component. Sorry, I didn't have it on the terminal there. But yeah, these tiny pieces become super easy to split out into new components. So let's go and try to actually make one. So first we need a way of tracking the one we're making. I'm gonna do it on change here. So anytime I type in, we are going to set new to do. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and use the event set new to do. Target value. that new to do doesn't exist yet, so we'll go up here and make it. Next, to do. Started with, actually we started with, yeah, no. Don't want it to exist until we start typing. So yeah, that should do that. And then on click, it'll create the to-do. Basically at that point, what we'll do is we will set our do's to be what they currently are plus our to-do. And that is that. So now I should be able to go up here and actually set this to start like it should, which is as an empty array. And I should be able to make print. And all right, so no to-dos. Let's add a new one. And because we never switched creating back. So, and as soon as we create that one, set creating to false. All right, let's do one. Hey, there it is. We do one. Other one. Yeah. Hey, cool. All right. Yeah, they look horrible, but we can fix that. Let's just go ahead and do that real quick, so we don't have to look at that nonsense. And need to add interpolate this in. All right, let's go take a look. There it is. Cool. So no problem. Awesome. So that works fine, but we're getting some pretty big code going on here. So this render to-do list thing has gotten decently big, especially if you wanted to, say, start marking them as complete, which means when you create them, you would need them to look differently. So say when I create it here, I now want it to be able to be complete. Well, now I need it to be an object. So it'll have a name for my to-do, and then it would also have like completed start as false. All right. So now I can't just display this down here as we have to-do dot name. And then we go ahead and add to some logic to say to dot completed. So otherwise, complete. Right. So let's see how that works. Yeah. So now I've got that working. Now I've got some new logic here that is not really working out for me. It's getting a little big. If I wanted to be able to have another button to click to say, okay, let's complete it by each one, and now I have to add that. We're not going to write the complete functionality, but just as an example. It's not right place in the div. And each one of these would say I have a button that just says complete. Let's say mark. All right. And we are going to go ahead and go through the appropriate React thing where you make a key for each of these items. Doesn't get confused. But yeah, now this is getting really big for a to-do list here. And yeah, and it's not even done right. And you see how as you do these things, it gets really hard to keep track of your syntax. It gets hard to make sure you've got everything aligned properly. You end up with really weird things. Just because you can't track it appropriately. Now we'll need, because we had to drop it on 2 lines, we'll need this return. Yeah, it's getting big, getting messy, not fun. Still all works, should work. Didn't need that one. Alright, what is going on here? So let's see, we missed some syntax here somewhere. There we go. Right. Okay, getting weird syntax problems. And it's definitely that I'm missing an ending thing somewhere. Here's all this. Not sure why it doesn't like that. All right. So in any case, clearly this is causing us problems. So we're going to go ahead and move it to its new home. Now that it's gotten this big, it's caused us all these issues. Now it's time to move it to another component. And this is where it makes it easy to say, okay, I can easily take this, make it into another component, and use it there because I already have it all in this method. So I pretty much just take this, put it out, move it over here, put it in. Back. All right. So now let's figure this out. So we need our to-dos. Yeah, sequence for now. Sequence. So that gives access to those, and we should be able to map over them that easily. I'm not sure what its issue with this bit is. Oh, might be because I don't actually need those. I'm really not sure why that's so mad. Let's see. It does not like this ending UL, but it's got to be because I put something where it wasn't supposed to be. So here's another thing we can do to make that easier. Continue with our method of doing this. We're going to take here, and we're just going to put the whole thing actually. Right here. Alright, doesn't seem to have any problems with that. So now use that. I'm going to need to pass in the to-do. index. Actually, we have it up here. And looks like that solved our problem somehow. You see how like breaking it out can help, even with that. And we'll need a still upset. Oh my goodness, there it is. All right. Okay, finally. Oh, maybe not. This is not cooperating. All right, start new is not defined. All right, we don't have React. That would help. All right, now the only problem is we don't have anything called start new. I'm going to say we're going to get that from our props. All right, and we're back in business. So now over here where we just got rid of this render to-do list, we should be able to just get rid of that entire thing. And instead, over here, we would just say render our to-do list component, which doesn't exist yet. I'll go up here and just it should be there. And let's go check that. We still have some problems. Our property map is undefined. Okay, so our new component doesn't know what to-dos is. Right, because we told it was going to run the props, we never gave it to it, so now we just do-dos. And we'll go ahead and give it its render new as well. Or its new. And or start new, that's what we called it. What we're doing there, just going to give it this function so that it can call back to it. Looks like I gave myself an extra. There we go. See, that fixed it. All right, looking good so far. Need to do one. Hey, and mark complete does nothing, but it's there. Another one. All right, so that worked. So now we have just our to-do list being rendered right here, and that kind of showed us like where it was a good idea to make a new component. We can just go ahead and go on the same lines and do the same thing with this. Right there. Make sure and add React. Alright. So this will be our new to-do form. Obviously it doesn't have our set new to do or our create to do things. We're going to go ahead and give it some props. Next, let me say our create to do. It's going to come from the props, and I could say that the set to do will also come from the props, but I don't think I want to do that because it feels like setting, like hanging on to this new to do the person is typing is the job of the form. It's not the job of the like overarching app here. So we're going to go ahead and take this away and give it to this component. Which means it's going to also need, actually that's fine, being true. All right, let's see if we have any problems. New to do is not defined, and that is in our app. Right here has no idea what need to do is. Yeah, so we're going to, we are going to make this a little different. We're going to take this whole thing. I'm not going to delete it, but I'm going to do a version of it here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and, actually that is not the one I wanted. We want our start menu. That's what we want. So yeah, looks like we have a problem here. This needs to know our new to do, while also our list needs to know our need to do. So here's what we're going to do. New way to make them both know about it. So we are going to, first, let's go ahead and get rid of this and render our form method, our form component to do. And we are going to give it our create to do function. And also it's going to need, oh, that should be it actually. So as our create to do function, we are going to call that with our new to do that we've been keeping track of this entire time. All right. Why is it still saying that is not being used? There we go. Don't need to specify. It already has context of it. Okay. Cool. Up here, we're going to go ahead and need our use state. And there we go. So everything looks happy in here. Let's go over here. This is mad because I have no idea what need to do is. But we are passing it in. So should be happy about that. Let's go ahead and make this a thing. Looks like I have a misspelling. All right. So now should be down to just rendering the two components. Let's go take a look if everything works right. Create to do is not a function. I think that's because we named it wrong. Yep. Right here, we named it with the uppercase. Inconsistent naming, it's a killer. All right, now let's take a look. All right, so we have these. I think I was going to click these still, and we're probably not going to get to that, but this is how you can keep things really small. So we just have a render main content here. That's all it does. It decides whether to render our to-do list or our new to-do form. And you could even move that logic into the forms themselves. You could just pass in the prop of creating to them, and it could decide, okay, do I return anything, or do I just return nothing? And then you wouldn't have to have that logic there. I don't like doing that because then both of them have to keep track of whether you're currently creating or not. And I feel like that's just the job of the full app component. So even here, we move into the render to do bit like so. Keep trying to keep this down here a little cleaner. At that point, you could take this, make it into its own component that is just a single to do component if you wanted. And then, so as you map through, you're just rendering, instead of calling render to do, you're rendering a single to do component in case you need more complex steps like actually doing the completed bit. So pretty clean now. We have just like these three functions here. These two both handle the whether you're creating or not, and this just handles the rendering, and then all that other HTML or JSX is extrapolated away to these other two things, which are both very small in their own right. So yeah, let me check back. If you guys have questions, yeah. So thank you guys for watching. If anyone has any questions, I can throw them in the chat. I'll hang out here for a little bit longer. I know sometimes there's a bit of a lag with the build. But yeah, I really enjoy doing that. I have not been in React in a while. I'm decently experienced with it, but not the newer React stuff. So I've been learning on that. I've been working in Angular mostly for the past year or so. So saw me not use the arrow functions a couple times. All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for watching. Wait, we have questions? No? It's a thank you. Thank you. We can wait for questions a little longer. I can always edit this in post, so just chill with you guys. I can watch for questions, and we could go ahead and like I said, you guys feel free to ask questions, and we'll go ahead and do the single to do thing. So we take this and turn it into its own to do, and I did not prepare a component for that. So want this to do .js. I am checking back for questions, guys. So alright, so yeah, let's do the JS. Let's go ahead and get there. And this. There it is. No questions yet. Still worked. Yep, no problem. So yeah, just another one done there. So yeah, at that point it becomes super easy just to keep making new components anytime you feel like one of those render functions is getting too big. So I don't know if we have any questions. If so, I will answer them. What is target? Target, so I assume, let's go back. I assume you're talking about here I do like e.target.value. So E just stands for like event. So anytime you call one of these things, so if you've seen it in regular HTML, like regular like change attributes and stuff, when that happens, there's always an event that fires. In this case, a change event. So E stands for event. Target is for the element, so this input tag, and then value would just be what you're putting in the element. So that's all it is. The event is an object that has a lot of things on it. So, but this is the most common use of it right here. It's just to get whatever was in there. So I'm just setting the name of this to do to whatever they typed in, basically. Any other questions? I know these things lag quite a bit when you're doing live, so I will hang around and wait for questions. I should have made coffee for this. The hash rocket syntax. Hash rocket syntax it's like an ES6 thing. So let's go back and take a look. So in ES5, you would have done something like this. So I could change these around to, let me find one. So in theory, I could do something like that. And that would be like ES5 syntax. Also, this would be like a named function, is what you would call it. So there's a lot of things to get into there, but basically, this is basically setting a variable to a function. So when you look at this is the actual function right here. And then we're just setting a variable to that function, which is this right here. So we can use that later. The hash rocket syntax, part of it is it gives it an implicit return. So unless you're specifically returning JSX and you need to say return, but otherwise, like this would just return what this function returns. So there's an implicit return there. Otherwise, you would have to explicitly say return. Also, there's a thing called binding, where without this syntax, I would have to make a constructor for this for this component and basically bind it so that I could use this keyword, which would be like I'd have to call like this dot start new and pass my stuff in, but you'd have to bind it. This gives it like implicit binding. Good question. Anybody else? Had any other questions? Anybody before we go?
Said you should do something extra.
Yeah, I can do some beginner JavaScript ones soon if you guys would like, or if there's interest. Basically, I mean, I can do like how to set up a React application, or I can just do vanilla JavaScript and how to mess around with that. Knowing who's asking, you guys are going to go through like DOM manipulation pretty soon, so I probably wouldn't get into that because that's about to be in your curriculum. But I can do like how to start a React app, which is super easy, and you guys can start messing around with that if you wanted. Anyone else? All right. Well, I'm gonna hop off. Thank you guys for watching.